Well, good morning.
Morning.
How are you today? How was the drive?
It was good. It was great. I saw an alpaca.
Alpaca? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a good drive.
It's like we're in Lima, Peru here.
Yeah, that's what they say, Edmonton, Alberta.
So, name and business. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I'm Evan Wildman, founder and president of Ram Canyon Industries. And what Ram Canyon is has changed a lot over the past 2 years or so. I started out sewing and selling products that I'd sewn based on kind of inventions that I'd come up with. And as that carried on, I started getting a little bit deeper into sort of what now is almost an ESG sector, kind of working with waste reduction and being a little bit more conscious about where products are made, how they exist when they're in use, and then what happens to them after they're done. So, circularity and kind of production transparency has been a cornerstone of what I'm focusing on right now.
So important.
Yeah.
Now, is that kind of, why is that important to you? Why are you excited about that part of it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm excited about it right now, especially right now, because the world is, people always say the world's changing so fast, but I think the truth is that the world is changing exponentially fast, in that I could make a pretty good claim to say that in my 22 years of life, I've seen more change than anybody born in any other year, considering it's the most recent parcel of 22 years.
Yeah.
So what's happening right now is consumers have access to everything. Everything is available for nearly free because of the resale market. And the idea of value is so diluted. So we really put our love into things that mean a lot to us in a different way than we used to. Something has to really pull its weight in order for it to be special, because if we don't like something, you can replace it in a heartbeat, and an alternative product can even be designed and produced and sold and distributed in a heartbeat. So it's really important to inject value into products in as many ways as possible. And right now is the time for people to be thinking differently about that, and also using the resources that we already have to build product from what has already been produced rather than raw material. So yeah, the world's just in a crazy place, and consumer patterns are very, very different now. So I'm trying to riff off of that in everything I do, and it's working quite well.
Fantastic. Strategizer, a common book series and consulting business for that, calls a business model an organization how an organization creates, delivers, and captures value. And so the point that you brought up there I thought was fascinating, because you're talking about value. It's a trade of value. I mean, if I buy a shirt or a belt or whatever it is I'm doing, it's not just the value of how much I paid for that belt, but it's the experience and everything that goes around it. And I think you are more attuned to and more, but it's not just you, it's not just your age group, you're the same age, a couple of years older than my oldest son, but that is a thing now. Tell me more about why do you see this shifting, and what is, how do people look at that value now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that value is a term that I've latched onto a lot in the past year and a half or so, because if we look into the Pacific Ocean, for instance, there is a floating wad of junk that is the size of Texas, and it's all made of plastic, which, in my opinion, is one of the most incredible inventions humans have come up with. It may very well suffocate us and kill our entire population,
right.
But it's been a wild ride with plastic. The amount of lives that it's saved through medical equipment, the jobs that it's made, and the food that it's been able to take to faraway lands, it's amazing. But since we don't value it the way that I think we should, it ends up floating around in the ocean. So the way that I see it, there's 3 different types of value that I use in a company. There's profit value, which is how a company can be sustainable in its functionings. There's reach value, which is how can you get your ideas to as many people as you can. Maybe you're losing a little profit when you perform more reach. And then the last one is brand value, or what I've referred to as soul value. So within that, I think your question is kind of tackling the soul value or brand value element. And inside of that architecture at Ram Canyon, I use a term called emotional durability, which is my favorite. Yeah, it's the tendency for a consumer to issue their own personally guaranteed warranty onto the things that they own. And people do this more now with older stuff, with gifted stuff. And the general trend is that people have less stuff.
Yeah.
You probably have 4 million products in your back pocket right now.
Probably.
And it's amazing what they can do right behind your computer screen. So the things that we actually have physically have to have that value. So they have to have that soul value, and emotional durability plays into that.
Give me an example maybe on how that plays out, because in my mind you're so spot on. There's this concept that Clayton Christensen and Bob Moesta really focus in on called a job to be done. Right, we are looking for a job to be done.
Yep.
Right, whether it's the pair of glasses, whether it's the iPhone that we have, and how we emotionally attached to that, but also what does it mean to us? What's the warranty? You mentioned that. I really want you to explain that, because we are attaching a value, but what does it mean, and why is it good, and where's the durability for it? So maybe go into that and how you deal with that job to be done for those products.
Absolutely, yes, and that's a fantastic philosophy. I personally remember when you brought that up with me, and I tore into a big research period looking into Moesta and all of the ideas behind kind of putting a job into a product.
Yeah.
And I think what it kind of made me think of is how does product relate to self or to person?
Okay.
Kind of a little bit more philosophically. If a person really likes a product, I would challenge you to think of a product that you really like. If it came up in your mind, now try to think of if that product kind of reminds you of yourself. A lot of the time it does. A lot of the time, people's favorite products are products that reflect who they are or reflect even a better image of their self. So if a product can tell a story that you like, that's great. If a product can tell its own story, that's even better. But if a product can help you tell your story, then that's pretty incredible. So in terms of a job to be done, I think that a pretty damn good job is for a product to help build the character that you are, along your hero's journey, and just elevate the person that activates it every day. So.
Love it. Okay, so I'm going to ask for an example, but not a Ram Canyon example. I want from your own perspective. Give me an idea of a product that does that for you.
Okay, so let's take old Uncle Jimmy. Maybe he's a great grand uncle. He rode in from Oklahoma before there were roads up to a place called Saskatchewan, which would later be called Saskatchewan, and started a little operation up there, maybe a trading post. He chose a saddle to take on his only horse, and that saddle, it elevated his character. So he appreciated that saddle and he took care of it. He issued a warranty to it. It was tough. You don't make fun of it. The people have respect for it. You repair it when it's in trouble. You fight for it. And when you're about to die, you give it to someone you love.
Right.
And you make sure that they do the same for it. But a good product will do that for itself. And I think that that's a pretty damn cool example of a product with emotional durability. Yeah.
I mean, you can't see it, but these shoes, I love these shoes. I found them, I think, in Winners, and it was one pair sitting on the shelf, and I looked at them and instantly went, oh my goodness, these are the greatest things ever. And I probably wouldn't have cared how much they were, but of course, being Winners, it was pretty inexpensive. Yeah. But I put these on today, and I'm like, man, I hope these don't die anytime soon, because I love them. I love the look of them, the feel of them, what it says about me. I think that's a really great way to look at it. And so you're building products now. Ram Canyon is doing that, and you're trying to capture this intersection of all of these things, what kind of things do you do to make sure that those things come together?
Yeah, so that's also an awesome question. There's a few tiers with that as well. So product sourcing, I think, is a really important part. The reason for that is because there are stories with each product that you source. So what we do is we use old material that has been previously loved or maybe discarded or maybe rescued from the landfill. And if it's tough enough, then we build it into a product. I also, I'll pick up material on the riverbank when I'm out fishing. And material that can survive a flood is probably going to survive pretty well as a tough bag. So using old material to build into a product creates a really cool story that people typically attach to quite a bit, and it circulates and it becomes valuable. The other thing that I try to think of is how much can a product do? Is it able to perform multiple tasks? At the end of the world, when there's no one around to help you, and buildings are on fire and we have no more trees left, people will be left with a few things each, and each of those things will have to do a lot for them. Yeah. So, not saying that the apocalypse is going to happen anytime soon.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not. But, it kind of goes to show how a product that can do a lot for you is a product that people just put more trust in and generally like more. So there's that ability to be multiple uses out of one product. Interesting stories woven into it from origins of each material. And then I also think of modularity when I build things. Can it fit into other elements to make a bigger story? Can you put two products together to make something that's a little bit more like Colin as opposed to someone else? And I think that helps people feel like they have products around them that help them tell their personal story a little more.
So awesome.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about the product that is Evan.
Yeah.
So did you always have this dream of entrepreneurship, of building clothing companies, or useful item companies? Where did you come from, and what are you trying to do with your life?
Yeah, isn't that a lyric to Cotton Eye Joe?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, sounds familiar. Well, so my first business that I had, I was in the 6th grade, and I don't remember how old that makes somebody.
Yeah, I don't
10
know.
or something?
Probably 10 or 11.
Yeah, so I'm young, so young for my whatever class. So I think I was 10 when I was doing this, and I would make these little clay figurines out of polymer putty.
Okay.
Put them in the oven for 30 minutes and pop them out, and they're solid, so it kind of bakes them into life, and then they come into life. And I would bring them. They were just the size of a thumbnail. I'd bring them to school, and I would sell them at recess for $0.25. And I actually kept a little book of each sale. I still have it, and I sold 270 of them.
Nice, good work.
Yeah, crazy. And I thought nothing of it. I always had to hide from the lunch ladies because they kept getting me in trouble. I don't know why. I think it's good habits to build. Yeah, selling them each for $0.25. I think I made $68 or something. Actually, I know I did, yeah, because I have that number written down.
Record.
Yeah. And from then, I don't know, I just like the idea of taking something that could be and attaching an idea to it that people like. I think that's sort of, there's a bit of what are you on earth here to do element of that.
Sure.
And it just gets me excited.
So was there a journey to get to Ram Canyon, or was it was that just an immediate epiphany that this is what you wanted to do? Obviously going from selling little figurines at lunch, avoiding the lunch ladies, which I love. I think that's hilarious. It's not like you were selling drugs or something.
Yeah.
But moving from that to where you are now, how did this come about?
Yeah. So I guess the beginnings of Ram Canyon were when I was just I was getting sick of getting bored of my degree. I guess I was studying product design and learning all of these amazing skills and actionable lessons that I was so ready to use. And I just picked up a sewing machine and I thought, okay, I love to be outside. I love fishing. I like people who set time aside to be outside.
Yeah.
I think that there's some interesting character traits that come out of people who are wild about what has always been.
Yeah.
So yeah, I began just inventing products, and I remember at university there's a sewing room, and I multiple times I would fall asleep at the sewing machine because they were open until 10 p.m. So full day of classes, and then I'd go straight to the sewing machine, have my takeout Chinese food, and then I'd sew until they shut the lights off. And I got in trouble after the second time of that happening, because you can imagine, I mean, if you're snoozing away at an industrial sewing machine, you could get yourself into some trouble. But yeah, I just kept popping items off of that thing, and I would sell them, you know, way before they were ready to be sold. Which is something I really think is something that everyone should do. And then, yeah, it just kept evolving. And my best seller is like a roll bag, kind of a lunch bag size, and people use it for all kinds of things around the city and out in the outdoors. And I made like 350 of them, which is an unbelievable amount of labor to me. I mean, I now my factory makes that look like mice nuts, but it was crazy. It took years for me to build up that many, and yeah, it just kind of took off, I guess. Yeah.
And you're coming at it from this passion of doing,
Yeah.
rather than necessarily going, hey, I got this harebrained scheme of what this is going to look like in 100 years, and turning it into something. It was more just this almost insatiable drive inside to make stuff. Like, is that what it kind of sounds like to me?
Yeah, you're right. And it's funny, my the one question that stuns me the most when I'm in front of, whether it's investors or advisors or just somebody who's curious, especially if I'm a little intimidated by them, if they ask me about my 5-year plan, I start speaking Spanish. Like, it's like there's nothing of value that I can produce when someone says that, because week to week everything is so different. So what I focus on, like you said, is just making products that have continuity within what my customer base is interested in, and maintaining all the values that I kind of set out in the first place to do. You do need a business plan to make it work.
Sure.
So I learned about that, and I had to go and pursue further education to figure out what the heck a business plan was. But yeah, through the help of some awesome advisory and a little bit of classroom knowledge, I've sort of figured it out. But yeah, I think a lot of really great leaders come from the pits of factories and just making ideas happen with their bare hands.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you're definitely a visionary, kind of this mad scientist to a degree, which I love. I mean, you've got did you change your name to Wildman or what? I mean, it so encompasses you in so many ways.
Yeah. No, that name was brought up by the owner of that saddle I talked about.
Yeah.
He's a real person. That's my great-great-granddaddy, George Roscoe. And my middle name's named after him, but he brought that name up. So I like to think he was kind of that same sort of mad scientist.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, because now I'm really excited about the future. Like, I know there's certain physics that you're going to have to obey in order to have a business that works and functions and provides for you in time. And ultimately, if you have such an incredible vision to get meaningful products out to the world, you've got to have an infrastructure that supplies that. But let's consider that that's kind of there.
Yeah.
I want to go forward in time a little bit, and I want to see if you could paint the awesome life for Evan Wildman. What would it look like? Like in 10 years, 15, 20 years, what would your little mad scientists, want to be doing?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll tell you about the time that I just about peed my pants.
Okay.
From excitement. And I think that I didn't actually, but it was like so exciting, this moment for me. And I think those little moments indicate what you want. They 100%. Paint the future. So I was sitting. You
got to be paying attention.
Yes. Yeah. I was sitting at the Ship and Anchor pub, great pub, and I was having a beer on a patio table, and the bike lane's right beside the picnic table, and a guy bikes by. He's got a backpack on. There's a fishing rod sticking out of the backpack, and there's my logo. And I remembered the bag that I had made for that guy, and I didn't flag him down. He didn't see me. He just whizzed by, and I thought, that is so fucking cool that I'm able to just be sitting here and see that happen. And I keep track of how many times I see the sort of the serendipitous products pop up in daily life. So far it's at 3. And those moments are what I really live for. Sure. And I'll tell you why. To me, it's because those moments aren't people coming to me and saying, you're so cool because you made this product. Or, you know, my aunt was talking about you. Or, you know, you came up in my backpacking trip. It's just somebody finding something useful. Mm-hmm. And that is what I want to do. Because, that's so cool, it's so cool. You know, that kind of an excitement can sometimes crash and then end up with more garbage patch. But if somebody is just genuinely using the product in their daily life, that really, really makes me excited for the future. Because if you're creating real value that someone is comfortable keeping to themselves and having a personal relationship with, that is the coolest thing. So in my future, I'd love to be scaling the business, delivering to people who really care about what it is, and just maintaining complete honesty, and making people excited about having products that are made in Canada that help them out. So, yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Are you looking at, like, I almost picture you sitting at a drawing board or, you know, a sewing machine or whatever, where you're just kind of making stuff and you're just, you know, seeing the need and listening to your customers and coming up with wild, crazy things. I mean, the Steve Jobs, you know, of, you know, welcome to the iPhone, you know, what the heck is that? I've never seen that before. I mean, is that kind of the way you see some of your future in kind of a consumer product space?
Yes, absolutely. I totally do. I'm super interested in hard goods. They make a lot of sense to me. Yeah. Kind of the tech space and the software as a system space is huge right now. And a lot of my peers are in those industries. So much to learn from it. But it's the direction that the world is going, which naturally, being myself, is a little off from the direction that I am interested in going. You know, being intelligent still. But just like you said, I definitely want to have a sewing machine with me until I croak. Yeah. And I can't stop making stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I love the fact that you are not in kind of just what everybody is excited about necessarily. Like, I think they're all important, and I think you're coming at it in an area that is extremely exciting and extremely important, but so much of the world focuses on tech as innovation and like you said, software, and it's natural that we would go that direction with the level of technology that we have. But what would you say to folks to inspire, you know, those next year to you, because like you're so young still, but the people coming up to try to, the guys at 10 years old, what would you tell them to kind of get them on the right track? Yeah,
so I love that question. I immediately think of 2 things. The first one that I always say, and I think, you know, it's quite pertinent right now, seeing is how people have had to cope with being alone for a lot. People have been working in isolation, both metaphorically and physically, for some serious developmental years of a lot of people's creative lives. So one thing that I always say is don't be afraid to be bold. I use that word because I think it is maybe the most important word that I can thank. Boldness. When I think of the times that I've sort of summed up the most amount of bravery and claimed that I can do something that I sure as hell didn't know how to do, shaken a hand, and then gone home and YouTubed it for 5 hours. Like, those moments are the ones that change the course of people's careers, if I'm going to be fully honest. Speaking personally, anytime I've done that and I try to challenge myself to do that, it's worked out amazingly. And you know, if you claim that you can do something or provide a service that you don't know how to do, you can always just open up and say, I'm sorry, I can't figure it out. But boldness is huge, because sometimes it's lacking in people, and it's easy not to be bold. It's easy not to be embarrassed. It's easy not to make mistakes. So that brings me to my second point, which is the benefit of being vulnerable, and allowing yourself to be vulnerable, and being okay with being embarrassed. You hear a lot of leaders talking about failing forward, and how failure is such an important part of growing. And I think that every time that's brought up, maybe we should be talking about being embarrassed, or allowing yourself to be vulnerable.
Absolutely.
Because so many people miss opportunities because they're scared of embarrassing themselves. And I think that if I were to take an exact tally of how many times I've embarrassed myself, and the amount of times that I have sat at night and thought I did something really cool today, something really worked out today, and it was because I did something kind of crazy, they're quite even. So yeah, to anybody who's kind of wanting to take the first step, you got to be okay to look like an idiot, and to make a bit of an ass of yourself, because that's how you learn, and that's how amazing things happen. So let yourself be vulnerable, and people will treat you well.
I love that. I mean, I think it's actually really, really important. I would say you're probably fairly extroverted. I'm fairly introverted. But that level of vulnerability and being okay with chaos, in fact, I think anybody who's interesting that I've known is the ones that have made the biggest mistakes and the biggest messes. And yet we hide that. Right? And I think it's so important to be able to kind of almost showcase that. Is look at how much of an idiot I've made of myself. I love that.
Right?
And then once you do, all of a sudden then there's a whole new connection made, for starters, which is unbelievably valuable. But also I think this new area to explore and learn from one another and try different things. Now, being that you're probably extroverted to begin with, how do I ask this? How do you get into, like, I mean, telling an introvert that they need to be more out of themselves isn't going to work very well. And so, but that wrestling with, or, you know, kind of playing with the tension of embarrassing, that's a really great way. I don't care how extroverted you are, you still can get embarrassed, and you can still do that. But how do you find what's going on in the moment to kind of almost jump through that? Do you have a psychology that is going along with that at any given time? Do you know?
Yeah, I guess it comes down to the way that you make decisions. So if you're going through a process, or let's say you're building an idea, because that's, I think, what everybody can reach common ground on here. If you're building an idea, you need the personality type to begin with to be the kind of person that can build an idea. And I will say, not everybody can do that, because some people are much better at managing. Some people are much better at comparing. Some people are much better at feeding koi fish. There's, you know, everybody's got their own thing. But if you are an idea person, no matter if you're introverted or extroverted, when you come upon a decision where you can say, should I do this crazy thing because I think there's a 5% chance that someone could say, hey, did Evan just bring up an idea that could work over here? Just do it. Because there's two things that can happen. You could, well, three things. You could get your ass kicked out the door. There's number one. Number two, somebody could say, no, you know, just ignore you, or say, no thanks. But the third thing that could happen, even if it's a 5% chance, is, hold on, could you repeat what you just said? And then their ears perk up, and they start listening to your idea, and then they give you a bunch of money for your idea. Sure. Those moments, well, the first two moments certainly can't happen unless you take a risk. Yep. The third moment also can't happen unless you take a risk. And risks are a debate of whether you're going to embarrass yourself or whether you're going to champion the decision. So, yeah, I think, you know, introverted or extroverted, someone on the end of a phone call won't be able to tell, for one. Yep. And for two, they are only ever interested if you have an idea that you're proud of and that you're ready to back up. And if you got that, there's no point in passing up any opportunity that you're able to pursue.
Love it. Okay, so let's dig in on that a little bit. Now, one of the things I hear a lot is, especially in idea people, I'm not a spark guy. I say I'm a fan in the flame guy.
Cool.
Right? And so
like that.
I see the great ideas and I'm go, wait a second, can you repeat that? I'm the guy that's on that other end of the phone.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, how can I help that become a reality?
Yeah.
Not because I think it needs to become a reality, but I see it in them or whatever it might be. But there's this weird, I'm going to call it weird. You don't have to. I'm going to leave it open, actually. So what about people stealing your ideas?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's a conversation that, you know, I've thought of a lot, and it's exciting. Theft is exciting, and I hate it. I hate it so much. And yeah, you can spend your whole life wrapping your arms around your ideas and protecting your IP and fighting and getting angry and pointing fingers. But at the end of the day, the reality is you will get stolen from if you're good enough at what you do. And you can either freak out or you can say, right on. Yeah, patents and copyright and trademarks are different than what they used to be. They used to be imperative. And now a lot of really important people will tell people that patents really don't matter, as long as you're the first of the game.
I'm kind of that mindset, but
yeah.
That's awesome. Evan, honestly, I could probably talk forever on this. This is so much fun. Yeah. Love your energy. Love the name goes along with it. It's perfect. So where can they reach you and where can they find out more about you?
Yeah, for sure. So ramcanyon.com is a really cool place to see the products that I work on. There's a jet skier that's blowing through an explosion on the front page and a bull rider who's holding one of my products, and so it's really fun. But that's a great place to check out the products and shop for some really cool locally made items. Also on Instagram at Ram Canyon, and yeah, that's a great place to just start and check out what's cooking in the canyon.
I love it. I love it. So exciting. Very, very cool. Thank you. I mean, I know you drove a while to come and see us. Then that's super encouraging. Obviously, you know, I'm a big fan, and anything I can do to help would be count me in. But on top of that, I just really appreciate you coming up and spending some time and sharing your energy with us.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me. It's been awesome.